We actually have a crisis at the moment about fuel. We need to have gas brought into the country. Well, we've got a gas here, plenty of gas, but we're denied the use of the gas. My private motions is very important to move this because Senators' time only has twice a year, One Nation only has twice a year to move private senators' bills, and this has been shut down by debate. The importance of this is the fuel crisis that it's have at the moment. It's more important to discuss the 15% domestic gas reserve. The gas is abundant in this country and would actually and we could actually use it to turn into petrol. That's how important it is. That's why it's urgent to deal with this. The crisis that's happening at the moment, we don't know how long the war is going to go on in Iran. We need to look at the urgency of this bill being discussed today. It is not it doesn't surprise me that the Labor aren't interested in moving this. Probably they're going to come out with their own gas bill in the future. Who knows? Are you going to pass what I'm trying to do here in the Senate of trying to look after the Australian people by using our gas here? So it is very urgent that One Nation gets the time that we debate what is urgent to us. The Australian people are destitute out there. Our farmers, our business, our truckies, everyone is desperate at the moment. And yet you want to shut down debate on this today to discuss why. I think it's deplorable the way that this chamber treats One Nation when it comes to my private members' bills, notice of motions, everything that happens here. You do not consider this at all. That tells me you don't give a damn about the people out there if you're not prepared to actually discuss this bill today. Where is your concerns about the fuel security that we have in this nation to listen to what private members' bills may give? Because half the time you don't have the answers to the way this country is run. You actually are poor economic managers. You have never been in the real world to understand how grassroots Australians are doing it tough out there. And it just shows your incompetence that you're not prepared to listen to what needs to be done in the country. And of course it's the Greens on side with the Labor Party in this part because you don't want to use the reserves of resources that we have and to see that Qatar exports more gas than what we do, or about the same amount, and they make $26 billion a year in their gas. They export. We make next to nothing. You've done really nothing about that. And then on top of it, you export our gas overseas. Australians don't have the gas that we need. We're selling it cheaper overseas and then we're buying it back. We're importing our own gas. That's how stupid the whole lot is. And I've been pushing for this. It's absolute madness. You're not economic managers, you're not business-minded, you have no idea how to run the country, and it's all about yourselves and you don't worry about the Australian people out there. That's why we need to discuss this on the floor of Parliament today, the urgency of this bill being debated, and that's why we'll keep pushing for it. As I said, only to the people out there, One Nation only has twice a year to introduce private senators' bills. This is not the first time you've tried to shut me down on introducing bills into the Parliament, only to see that you're either totally against it and you head down this path of this climate change BS that's going on, that it's going to save us, save the planet. It's destroying economies out there, it's destroying people. The cost of living is just rising constantly all the time. You've got no answers to it whatsoever. And now I believe, I really think that you understand this with the gas, that you're going to bring in your own bill on the gas reservation, but it won't go anywhere near what One Nation will do for this country in giving a 15% domestic gas supply on the East Coast and the gas that we need, not only onshore, but up the Northwest Shelf. You have failed this nation miserably. You are failing now and delivering the fuel that this nation needs, and you want to shut down debate on it, and don't tell me it's a stunt. Labor pulls the most stunts in this Parliament.
This wasn't framed as a routine parliamentary exchange. It was presented as a direct confrontation over one of the most sensitive issues in national policy, fuel security and domestic gas access. Pauline Hanson used the chamber to argue that Australia is sitting on abundant natural gas reserves, yet still facing what she described as a growing fuel crisis driven by policy restrictions, export priorities, and what she called long-term economic mismanagement. From her perspective, the contradiction is simple but severe. The country has the resources, but not the political will to fully prioritize domestic supply. She built her argument around urgency and scarcity, claiming that a 15% domestic gas reservation policy is not just an option, but a necessity. In her framing, the issue is no longer theoretical economics, it is about immediate pressure on households, farmers, transport operators, and businesses already struggling with rising energy costs. She repeatedly returned to the idea that Parliament is refusing to even properly debate these proposals, suggesting that private senators' bills are being sidelined or shut down before they can be seriously considered. This, she argued, reflects a deeper democratic problem where urgent national issues are being filtered through political resistance rather than public need. A key pillar of her attack focused on energy exports. Hanson highlighted what she sees as a structural imbalance in Australia's gas market. The country exports large volumes of liquefied natural gas while domestic prices remain high and supply feels restricted. She pointed to other gas-producing nations generating massive revenue from exports while still maintaining stronger internal energy stability. In contrast, she argued, Australia is effectively selling its resources cheaply abroad and then paying higher costs domestically to access energy that originated within its own borders. This, in her words, represents not just inefficiency but economic self-sabotage. She also widened the argument into broader economic management, claiming that both government and allied political parties are failing to understand real-world pressures. Her criticism was not limited to one policy but extended to the overall direction of energy and climate-related decision-making, which she described as disconnected from affordability and industrial survival. According to her, the result of these policies is a constant rise in the cost of living with no clear corrective strategy being offered to the public. Another major theme in her remarks was geopolitical instability. She referenced global conflict risks and argued that external shocks, including war-related disruptions, make it even more critical for Australia to secure its own energy independence. In her framing, reliance on unpredictable global markets only increases vulnerability, while unused domestic gas reserves represent a missed opportunity for stability and economic strength. Throughout the speech, she consistently positioned her proposal as being blocked or ignored within Parliament. She described repeated attempts to introduce legislation being limited by procedural constraints, arguing that this prevents proper scrutiny of alternative energy strategies. This fed into her broader narrative that institutional resistance is preventing practical solutions from being considered, regardless of public need. She escalated her tone further by directly challenging the competence of economic decision-making within government, arguing that Australia is being poorly managed from an energy and trade perspective. The repeated comparison between domestic shortages and export volumes was used to reinforce her central claim that the system is structurally failing to prioritize Australian consumers over international contracts. In her conclusion, the argument became explicitly political. She accused opponents of avoiding debate, dismissing her proposals without engagement, and failing to recognize what she described as a growing national crisis. The overall framing was not simply policy disagreement, but a claim of systemic failure in how energy security is being handled. The message was clear and repetitive: Australia has the gas, but not the policy framework to use it effectively. And in her view, that gap is now directly contributing to economic pressure across the country.